So we're creating more columns and posts, and we're looking to have 4 posts. One of them will be a column that contains 2 posts within it for a mailing list sign up, and then 3 other posts. And that nested column and the 3 posts are made within a single nested column where we can control the actual EM values. We're going to set them up so that they compress as the viewer's view screen compresses. But then we also want to set it up so that they break at particular breakpoints. So it goes from 4 to 3 to 2 and 1 post per row. All the while we want to preserve the width to height ratio to give an orderly look. So we'll take a look at how we can do that. So we're going to set everything up at EM units. EM units are great when we want to change the scale factor, and we'll see how we do that up in the parent column so that not only we can use scaling EM units, but we can cause them to break at particular breakpoints. So what we're doing in our container column, which contains the 4 posts, we created another column. In that column, we created a text post and then a mailing list post for our mailing list. And then with the 3 other posts, we're creating images and 1 text post. The value of EM units are initially set through font size PX units. We want to make scaling units, and we're going to set this up in the body. We could do it in a parent column, and that way we don't have to set up each post individually. We're going to go up to the styles. We're going to set it up that each EM unit is 20px, set it to scale from 2000 down to 250. So it'll scale proportionately, it's the same way we did with the REM units. The difference being we can depend on EM units as being changeable, whereas we can depend on REM units as being non-changeable throughout the HTML once the scaling is set. But for now, we come back down. We want to set it up for 4 posts across in a row for the 3 posts and the 1 nested column containing the newsletter. So we'll go ahead and select number 3 in the main width options. We're going to use 22 EM, equivalent to 22%. We'll also add in a margin left and right of 0.5 EM. Now there are 2 ways to set up our RWD breakpoints. We could set it up here and increase the number of EM units we're working with to get the breakpoint effect that we want, or we can do it up in the parent column and instead we change the actual value of an EM unit. So we'll do it that way so we can see how that's done, and we'll do that after we finish the styling of the posts. For float, we're going to choose center float. We're going to go up and we're going to export these to the other post types within this parent column, and we also check the export float options. We'll go ahead and submit the changes. We now see that the 4 posts, including 1 column, are sharing row space. So we're going to be making a lot of styling in the posts. We're not going to try to show all the styling, but we will mention it. We're going to give this newsletter containing column a dark green background, and we'll give it an all-around padding value of 1.5 EM. That'll indent our 2 posts within it. And we'll give it a top margin of 30px. For the text post, we're going to put in some stylized text. Activate TinyMCE, click into it, paste the text in. Now we'll select the newsletter text to make a title out of it. We're going to give it a 1.25 EM to make the font bigger than the rest of the text. We'll give it some padding bottom, 0.5 EM, and we'll select italic, and we'll give it a font family. For the rest of the post, we'll give it a background, a light grayish color at 76% opacity. An all-around padding of 1.5 EM. So we're going to give it a font color, and we'll match the column background color with that. And lastly, we'll give it a 6px radius all around. We'll submit that. So we move to the mailing list. So up here under Change Translate Prompts, we're going to leave it at no name requirement. Now we're going to stick with the default options using internal prompts as opposed to external prompts, and we're not going to use robot buttons. We're going to use the default prompts, but we're going to change the subscribe text. On the submit button, we'll change it to specials and news. Here we can style the input boxes. We'll leave the default 100% width. We're going to give them a padding all-around value of 0.35 EM. I'll give it a little extra left padding to indent the text. We'll give it a margin bottom value of 0.8 EM. But most importantly, we're going to set up a font of 1 EM. Input boxes are not great inheritors of the font size, so we want to make sure we're using EM. and we'll use the default light gray border. So here we can style the actual initial prompt text, and we're going to make it lighter than the text the user will input. So we're going to make it a light gray color. By default, we have an internal prompt for the mailing list. We're not using the radio buttons, and we're going to style the submit button. The submit button is also an input box. We're going to override the background color. We'll give it a darker greenish color. We're going to give it a margin top and bottom of 0.80 em. A different font family. Extra font weight. We'll give it a corner radius. Make it a little wider. We're going to give it a padding all around value of 0.5 em. And lastly, we'll increase the font size to 1.1 em on the subscribe button. And this will also increase the padding and margin settings we just set for the subscribe button as well, but not the parent or sibling elements. For the overall post, we'll give it a padding top value of 1.4 to separate it from the text. So we'll submit that. We can go ahead and we can upload the 2 images. We're going to set up image captions for the 2 images. The first caption will overlay the image with an opacity, whereas for the second image, the caption will be below the image. So we go to the first image. We go to the styling and image configs. We go to the add style image caption. Here we want display caption in image on all devices. I'm going to paste in the caption text. We'll go down to the add link. We can put in an internal or external link. We're going to put in an external link to the Google map direction that we want to show. And lastly, we'll go up to the style caption. We'll give it a light color font color, all around padding, 0.80 em, green grayish background color at a 50% opacity. Similarly, we'll paste caption in for the customer photos. For this, we're going to choose an internal link, and we'll choose the customer's page that we set up to link to when the image is clicked. Choose display caption under image. And for the caption styles, a light background color at 50%. Padding top and bottom value of 1.90 em. And text aligned center. And we'll use a dark font color. So we went ahead and submitted what we had so far. We're going to go ahead and paste free delivery text into the text post. The text we're going to paste in needs to be styled with a couple of different special classes. And one of those special classes, the text has line breaks. Now the text we pasted in has no tags and just the 2 line breaks. Pasting it in directly without using TinyMCE, it changed the line breaks to the break tags. And it did so without wrapping in paragraph tags before and after the 2 line breaks. So we submitted it and then went back and turned on TinyMCE and then the parse editor. There's 1 P tag wrapped around the text we just pasted. And we also see the line breaks are now break tags. We're going to go to add, replace, and target element, and we're going to choose to replace current element with selected tag, and then we go and we'll select a division tag. Okay, there's our new division wrapping the entire text, and so far that's the only element other than the break tags. So we still need 2 precisely placed peak tags with class names. So we're going to go to the highlight and wrap option, and here there's a 1, 2, 3 direction. We're going to first put in the class name that we want, which is post 1. Second, we select the text that we wish to wrap. So we go back to the post. We're going to select the text that we want to make as the title. And then finally, we select the tag to wrap. And then that's going to be a P tag. Okay, so there's our title text with the P tag wrapped around it. If we check the class name, we now see it has the post 1 class name. We'll go back up and once again, we'll click the highlight and wrap button. We'll put in post 2. We'll select the rest of the text. Select the P tag. Okay, and there we see the 2 new P tags. Now at this point we can actually delete the division, but it's not going to cause any styling changes, so we're going to go ahead and leave it. Now we'll go down and enable the special classes. We're going to choose to enable 3 classes option to submit all the changes we've made so far. So we go back down to the style special classes. We'll go to style post number 1. We're giving it a dark grayish green background color with the top and bottom padding of 2.5 EM, light font color, and we'll center the text align value. We're also going to give it a 1.1 EM font size, which will increase the padding top and bottom that we just set up by 10%, as according to the multiplicative property of EM units and font size adjustments. We'll go to style post 2. We'll give it a light grayish green background color, all around padding value of 1.8 EM. Smallerize the font just a bit to give us the right height to width perspective. We're going to make it a 0.93 EM. We can tweak these as necessary to give us the correct height to match the other posts. Originally, we chose a default browser font, Lucinda. Notice we have a lot of wraps on the text, and we adjusted the text font size to give us the correct overall height for the post. But when we checked it out on Chrome, we saw that it was consistently came up short with one less line wrap. Turns out for default browser fonts, Chrome displays them narrower than other browsers such as Firefox. So instead we used a font-faced custom font, and here we used Oxygen, and that it was consistent between browsers at varying viewport widths. Something to keep in mind if doing something similar. And finally, we're going to go to the overall styling values, and we'll give it a padding bottom value of 1.25 EM. And we want to give it a margin top value of 30px so that they all have the same margin top value. Now we didn't do it to the 2 images, so we're going to go to the import export style settings. This is particularly useful when you have a lot of styles that you want to export to the other posts within the same parent column. Check individual fields to export. Here we're just going to check the margin top, and that'll export the value we just created to the other 2 images. So we hit submit. We take a look at the web page, and we see that they scale throughout the range, which is not what we want. We want it to break from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 at particular breakpoints. We also see we need to give a margin top to the column containing the 4 post types. And also, when this column was created, it could have been created above the Our Entries post where it belongs, but we'll go ahead and relocate it. So we go back to the edit pages to make these changes. Now for the RWD response that we want, we're going to go right up to the parent column of the 4 posts, and we're going to modify the font size, but we're not going to use font size. We're going to choose the font RWD unit, and that'll allow us to change the font size at particular media widths. Now we're going to use EM. Fortunately, the property of EM units is that they act as scalars when we reset the font size in EM units. So whatever the current size of the font, at whatever the viewer's view screen size that it is, we multiply it by the value that we set here. So all the sizings that we made in EM will still scale, but then at the particular breakpoints, they will reset at the new resized EM, and then the posts will share at 4 and 3 and 2 and 1 posts per row, according to the EM value that we set up for each of the breakpoints. So for large view screens, we're going to set it up for 1 EM, which makes no difference to the current size that we're working with. So that'll be 4 posts per row. Then we're going to put down 900 here for the max width of viewer view screen sizes, and we're going to shift it by a ratio of 1.33 EM. So that way, 3 posts will fill the space that 4 posts fit before. And then below 700, we want to shift to 2 posts per row. We'll make it 2 EM. And then below 500, shift to 1 post per row. We can use 4 EM. We'll put in 3.8 and give it a little extra spacing. When we set the value up here in EM units, these default units are going to change to EM by default. And by doing it up here in the column, we don't have to do it 4 different times in the post. And we'll go ahead and we'll put in a margin top of 100px. And before we submit, we're going to go up above this text post. We'll choose the Copy, Move, Clone Column option. Hit Submit. The column we want to move has an ID of C8. We'll go up to the new insert column options. So we choose the move option and we put in ID of C8. Hit submit. We're looking at 4 per row down to 3 below 900 px, and then below 700 we're now 2 rows of 2, and then below 500 we're at 1 post per row, which is what we wanted. We're going to go ahead and add some special effects to the column and the 2 images. There is that odd image on screen widths between 9 and 700. And one way of dealing with it is show how we can disappear an image between particular breakpoints. We'll disappear the customer's photos. We do have a link to that in the navigation menu. So we go to the post settings for that image and we scroll down to display media off. We're going to set up at media max width of 900 and a media min width of 700, and that's all we need to do for that. We're going to go up to the column and we're going to give it a scale transform. We go to the column options, column animations. For this one, we want to ensure the non-visibility of the initial state, so we choose that. We want to use the transform scale option. We'll make it from 0.8x to 1x, which means it'll be smaller to begin with, and then it'll go to its natural size. We'll also go ahead and adjust the in-view requirement. We're going to turn that down to 33%, which means that as 33% of the column comes into view, it will initiate the animation. We'll go to the post images within the column, and we'll also give them an animation. We're going to go to the post animations, and then we'll just select the hover scale, and it's going to be 1.05x, and which is a subtle magnification when we hover on it. We'll do that with the other image. Hit submit. And then lastly, we'll set up a background image for the column. If we go to the column styles, we go to the background styling. We choose the upload image option. Then we go back to the background styling and the background image, and we'll check the option to repeat the image vertically and horizontally. And we also check the use as is image size. Hit submit, and we'll take a look at our final display.